Oh, you know what that sound means. It's 1TS Daily right here at One True Sport. What's going on, everybody? I'm Zack Heydorn. That's Ryan Droste. It's Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Ryan, back for show 2. I love this, man. Nothing scared you away. Not even the falling over Macho Man doll.
Yeah, if you guys didn't watch yesterday, we had someone in the chat talking about Macho Man because I made a joke about the Mega Powers. And behind me on the shelf back there, where I have the Walter Payton Funko Pop, I had a Macho Man figure there too, and it fell over the instant the person in the chat room talked about it was so creepy. So I redid the backdrop a little bit, Zach. But no, I'm ready to go. It was a lot of fun yesterday. Great interaction in the chat room, great feedback on the show. We're building something special here with this One True Sport brand, and looking forward to all of this.
Absolutely. We got a lot to get to today. A huge AEW Dynamite show tonight, which we will kick things off here with in a minute from a preview perspective. Really newsworthy show that we're going to want to spend a ton of time on. We'll also talk a little NXT and then some other news and nuggets that popped up the last 24 hours that definitely want to chat about. Before we get into that, take care of some business here. This is 1TS Daily. We are here every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 11 Eastern, talking with you about the news in pro wrestling, previewing shows, reviewing shows, big happenings, and everything in between. You can find discussion on that every day here at 11 Eastern on the One True Sport YouTube channel and on One True Sport on Twitter. You can subscribe. I hope you do, so that you don't miss any of what we do here on this show, but also there's just so much other content that goes up on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis here on One True Sport that you're not going to want to miss. And it's totally free to hit subscribe. So please do that if you're able and willing to hit the like button here. It helps us out from an algorithm perspective. And I thank you in advance for that. The live chat is open. So as people file in, feel free, drop your thoughts. Hey, you guys are nuts. Good opinion, bad opinion, whatever it is, drop it in there. Keep the conversation going. We have super chats open as well, so you guys can ask your questions and make sure those get read on the air. Super chats help. Any amount can help us out big time, and we thank you in advance for that. While you're listening to the show, you can check out Brass Ring Media. You can check out Top Rope Nation, two other places that Ryan and I both work for and with that I think if you like what we do here on this show, you'll definitely like what both of those platforms have to offer. And also, reminder that OneTrueSport.com is your home for becoming a One True Sport member. We've got a variety of different membership tiers, all sorts of access to pro wrestling legends, different shows, different hosts, different perks. It's all there for you at OneTrueSport.com, as well as a large variety of One True Sport merch that you can check out as well. Once again, that's OneTrueSport.com. All right, Ryan. The Owen Hart Cup finals are tonight on AEW Dynamite. We'll just run through the card here because it's a pretty big show for AEW, like top to bottom, like in terms of star power and then just match quality. There's some really good stuff on this show. So we're gonna get an appearance from Swerve Strickland. It's Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page in the finals of the men's Owen Hart Cup tournament. Jeff Jarrett is going to be the special enforcer of that match. Willow Nightingale will take on Mariah May in the finals of the women's Owen Hart Cup tournament. Samoa Joe versus Chris Jericho in a Stampede Street fight. And Claudio Castagnoli against Kyle Fletcher, against Pac, and against Tomohiro Ishii in a fatal four-way match. So, again, lots of star power, two key matches, world champion appearing. What do you think, just high level of this Dynamite show coming out of Collision and coming out of last week?
Yeah, I think AEW has been booked pretty well over the last couple of months. I think that they had definitely a hiccup for a while. I know live attendance isn't necessarily reflecting that quite yet for them, but I think they should stay the course with what they're doing. They've been having some very good shows recently. Speaking of attendance, I just looked it up on WrestleTix, and they've got pretty much a sold-out show tonight in Calgary. A little over 4,000 tickets out for that.
That's great
event. It might be more than they had last year. I'm trying to remember. I'll look that up here in a second on the WrestleTix Patreon. But they got a good crowd at the Saddle Dome, legendary venue. You know, Canadian Stampede '97, great show. Speaking of those guys on our backdrop here, one of the best crowds in wrestling
Not
history. So,
Canadian Stampede.
oh man,
I don't want to tell you to stop listening to this show, but after this show, go watch it because you're not going
yes.
to. It's an awesome. It's a hell of a match. Sorry, go ahead.
Read Zach's book, by the way.
Yeah,
But
right.
yeah. I mean, they're going to be in the same venue tonight. Crowd's going to be super hot in memorial of Owen Hart. I love that they've built up this show, not just, with the Owen Hart finals, but a couple other announcements as well. Could see the men's tournament going either way. I see Andrew in the chat saying Double J with the screw job. I mean, I could 100% see that coming. We'll have to see though. But I mean, I think you can make a pretty good case for both Brian main eventing All In or Hangman main eventing All In. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, you got All Out too to factor in, and maybe one of these guys gets a shot after that. I think on the women's side, it's a little more predictable to me, but we'll see what you think when we get to discussing that. But I mean, overall, yeah, I'm really excited to watch Dynamite tonight to see how this plays out. Feels like a destination show. You think back to those early Dynamites when they first launched, and they would build up cards for a couple of weeks in advance. And we've known we have this one here on the horizon, right? And it's felt big now for weeks. Here we are, big crowd, hot wrestling city historically. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I am too. This is this does feel like kind of an ode to like past AEW cards where you just had, there's just anticipation for the show, days before, and not just because, the matches were going to be good, but because the matches like meant something. And these two Owen Hart Cup matches, there's really big stakes behind them, not just because, okay, you're going to win the tournament, but the winners of these matches are going to get title shots at All In, the biggest AEW show of the year, Wembley Stadium, here in a couple weeks. So as far as the women's match goes, I am like you. This seems like a foregone conclusion in my eyes that Mariah May is gonna take this. She's been on a collision course with Toni Storm for months, not like outright in terms of them feuding with one another, but they've just been so interconnected, and the storyline seems to be pushing and moving that direction where it's time for them to square off with one another. This is a good opportunity for Mariah May to kind of show out from a match perspective. I've said for months that she is one of the women on the AEW roster that has really organically and slowly kind of gotten more over and more over and more over the longer she's been on TV. She's worked a lot of matches. She works Rampage, she works Collision, she works Dynamite. She's all over the AEW programming, and I think that's been really good for her. So I think it's her time. And I think, she wins this match. And I really hope she's able to put together something strong with Willow Nightingale. And there's no reason to think that she won't be able to at this point. Are you taking her too?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's time for Mariah May. I think they've done a good job slow building the story with her and Toni, and hopefully once we get to All In, that's kind of the start of maybe a slow split. But I think it was a good way to introduce her to the crowd, with Toni being that established star on the roster who's so world traveled, and Mariah is too. But I think it was a kind of a small segment of the audience that was familiar with her and her history and stardom and everything. So now that we've seen her more on TV, the general audience has seen that she, she's very good at playing the character, but also she can really go in the ring too. And being in there with Willow, I expect a really good match. But yeah, in the end, I think Mariah goes over, and you've got now in the women's division a similar situation as last year in the men's division, where you had, MJF and Adam Cole doing the friendship thing. And now you're in squaring off, and now you're going to have these two friends squaring off with Mariah, here in her home country, hopefully having a big moment.
Yeah, I agree. That's going to be cool. And do you think that they're going to like turn one of the women, like either Toni Storm or Mariah May, like full on heel or babyface, or do you think they can just walk this line of they're just in their own little story, and that story exists there, and it doesn't really matter, like, look, bigger picture, whether one's a good guy or one's not?
I think it'll be pretty slow. I don't think it'll be like an instantaneous turn, where like Tony uses a foreign object and goes full on heel right away. I think it'll be like a gradual thing. If Mariah beat her at All In, and then they could play up like the jealousy angle with Tony a little bit where they're still together, but her, casting kind of evil looks on her or whatever. I think that's maybe a way that they would go with this. I'm not sure that they would go full on heel. I think if they did, Tony should play the heel because Mariah is super over with the crowd right now. I just went to a Dynamite 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and she was one of the most over people on the show. And all she really did was she didn't even wrestle on that show. She came out on the Rampage tapings to accompany Tony to the ring. And I mean, tons of Mariah chants. And I mean, she is somebody that could legit carry this women's division in the future, I think.
Yeah, I do too. I go back to like how she debuted in the company. And I remember thinking at the time, like, okay, she's not getting a ton of like fanfare and hype, but maybe that's okay because, you've had a lot of women come into that company, Saraya, Ruby, obviously Mercedes, that just, come in with a lot of fanfare and then kind of like settle back down to a different water level. And with Mariah, it was like, all right, she's on TV now. And like everything that the audience knows about her and why they care about her happened in AEW, like on AEW TV. And I think that has like helped her kind of grow and like get more over in a different way than like, Saraya was over. She had a lot of history elsewhere. Mariah made all of hers for the most part in AEW. And I think that's been a key like differentiator, I think, in my mind, in terms of her ability to grow.
Yeah. I thought early on I was getting a little impatient because I thought it was moving too slow. Like you barely saw them together at all when they first introduced them on TV. But the last several months, it's been such a focal point that it's worked really well.
Yeah. All right. And then on the men's side, well, I want to get to one of Andrew's comments here about AEW ticket sales. Andrew says here in the live chat, it's amazing how we discuss AEW ticket sales these days. It was almost impossible to get in the early days and no worries these days. Andrew, I think that like, yes, that's true. Obviously, there's, they're having, attendance challenges right now. I think that there's like, we could do like a 3-hour podcast on why that is. And, to me, it crosses over just a lot of reasons in terms of like buzz wearing off, like the, honeymoon period, naturally going away, losing some star power, collision. Like there's a lot of different factors at play. But I think like it would have been impossible, Ryan, to like expect AEW to like keep up that clip that they were on early, in their run. Like, I think that's just an unreasonable expectation. Now, you don't want to have the drop that they had either. I think that there's like a nice middle ground there that they kind of missed. And so instead of going from 10,000 to like 7,000 or 10,000 to 8,000 on a regular basis, it went, 10 to 3, or 10 to 2. And that's not great. But on the flip side of that argument, I think that you got to expect that you're not going to have the same type of sustained buzz and momentum throughout the entire history of your company. Like that's just not sustainable for any pro wrestling company, especially one as new as AEW. So I don't give them a pass because you want to do better in terms of like you want to draw more than 2,000 people, but also I don't think you can expect WWE style numbers either.
No, I think, you got to keep in mind, again, this is a 5-year-old company and WWE's on fire right now from a live attendance perspective and making money and everything. And I think you would be really hard pressed to find any time in the history of professional wrestling when you had two companies who were both lighting up at the box office. Like 1998 is probably the only year where that was the case. And a lot more people were watching pro wrestling back then and there was room. But like, 97 WWF was down, WCW was on fire. 99 WWF was up, WCW was coming down. I think it's really, really hard in the marketplace with as much live wrestling as there is now on national television to have two companies running 10,000 every single week from an
Mhm.
attendance perspective. AEW, they had the buzz early. It was the new hot brand. And then the pandemic happened, man. And the pandemic killed a lot of their momentum, because Zach, you and I, the first time we met up in person was Revolution 2020, just days before the world shut down. And that company
Super
fell
spreader
on
event
fire.
that we didn't know we were at.
Yeah, exactly. The company just fell on fire at that moment, didn't it? It was just, I mean, that was a heck of a show. TV was really good. Then the pandemic comes, and then they were having such great television. It's really tough during the pandemic. I felt like during the pandemic, they were better at it than WWE for a while, of producing crowdless shows. But then you come out of the pandemic, and then they got the buzz because Punk came back and Bryan came in and Adam Cole came in. But that died out eventually. Punk got injured. Punk left. And now they're trying to claw their way back. I think they tend to run arenas that are too big for them. I feel like they need to run more mid-market size arenas. Like if you're thinking college basketball arenas, like the mid-majors, the 7,000-8,000 seat arenas, not these 15,000 seat arenas. And there's another issue. I talked about this on Top Rope Nation after I went to Dynamite. They were here in Des Moines, and they ran like a 17,000 seat arena, and they didn't sell the upper deck at all. They only sold the lower bowl. And I mean, you couldn't get in the show, I don't think, for like less than $60.
Wow.
And it's like, that's a hard sell for the general audience who, they're still a 5-year-old brand. A lot of people just don't know who they are. And you don't get a lot of walk-ups, people being curious, because if you have to pay $60 for a ticket to get into the show, and you're taking a couple of kids, you're talking about a couple of $100 just to get in the building, let alone refreshments and stuff. If you're not going to sell, the WWE, they charge that too, but they also sell upper deck tickets for a lot cheaper. So I feel that they need to run, smaller arenas that will look very good, filled up on television, where the furthest away tickets are like $25 just to fill it up. And I think you have a better shot of doing that, and you get a good crowd each and every week. Yeah, the gate's going to be a little bit less, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not into economics. You'd have to ask Brandon Thurston or something. But like, if you could factor in, if I'm going to sell 6,000 tickets, 5,000 tickets, but also have some $25 tickets versus $60 being the cheapest ticket, and I'm only selling 2,500, what's the better route? So I think that's the issue. I think their pricing is a problem. But I do think weekly television has been really, really good lately. And I think they got to stay the course on what they're doing, because it's not going to be an instant turnaround. Right. It's just, that's not how it works. This from writing your Steve Austin book. If you go back and you watch those 1997 Raw's Wars, they were better than Nitro almost every single week.
Yep.
But they were losing the ratings wars. They weren't doing as good of attendance because it took a while for the general audience to catch up. I'm not saying Dynamite is better than Raw or SmackDown every week, but they are having really good television. And I think if, they keep the course, eventually their business will increase again. But I would say they should work book some smaller venues. I think that would be a good choice for them.
Yeah, I think so too. I totally agree with all that. And, we talked about this a little bit yesterday in, discussing NXT, and, I think AEW would benefit from like trying out some of those unique kind of venues too, like looking different than a WWE show. Cause it does look like WWE light, and that's not a bad thing. Like they're WWE's the big time. So if you want to look like a big time, promotion and with a lot of production, like there's some things you just kind of have to do. But I think there is value in having a full building, or full-ish building. I mean, 4,000 in a 17,000 seat arena. I mean, that is cavernous. I mean, that you can feel that even if you can't see it, And I think if you had 4,000 in a 6,000 seat arena, like the atmosphere is way better for you and for your show. So I agree with that, Ryan. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. All right. Also tonight on Dynamite, Adam Page is going to take on Bryan Danielson, Owen Hart Cup final. Winner is heading to All In. You mentioned it at the top, man. This can go a lot of different ways, and I could be convinced like either way on this, in terms of which way you go, and the where I land on it is like if Hangman wins, it tells me that they've got something really big planned for Bryan Danielson at All In. The problem is I'm not sure what that is. Like it, so if he's not going to be in the world title match, I mean Danielson's worked pretty much everybody, every big star that AEW has in a major match. So aside from Swerve, so like for that reason, I'm taking Swerve, or excuse me, I'm taking Danielson here. And I think that, the story is him going for a championship as he heads into the last, few months of his active, wrestling career. I'll take that. But I mean, Hangman's been doing some really great work, and the match on Collision against Jay White is just, can't miss stuff. So there's an argument to be made there too. But I'll take Danielson. Where are you? Are you gonna stay there, or are you gonna play devil's advocate, go the other way?
Yeah, you know what? I'm leaning Danielson just because. Well, I've been also talking about this for a long time. I feel that I've loved Danielson's run in AEW, but I feel the guy, he's such a good guy. He's too selfless.
Yeah,
Like this is a guy who in the last 3 years should have been world champion at some point. And I just don't know how you would let him go off into retirement, or only, he's not going to work full time. He might do some matches here and there, but leaving his full time career, never holding your world title, I feel like you would want to get him on that lineage.
Yeah.
I've been also just from the perspective of box office. He's a guy you want to talk about selling tickets that people know. I mean, if he is carrying the title, not just, I mean, Tony being a wrestling nerd like us, I would think he would want Bryan Danielson on his titles lineage, just like he really wanted CM Punk on there. And we saw him go back to him, after everything happened, after the injuries, after the drama. He still kept going back to him. He wanted that Punk run. I mean, I think that you could have Bryan win the world title for a brief run, and he could drop it back to Swerve at, Swerve's home state at Wrestle Dream when they go up there to Washington State in the fall. At the same time, like you said, Hangman has been awesome since he has come back. I think the Hangman Swerve story is one of the best stories they've told in the last several years. Their matches were incredible. So I wouldn't complain about that either. I mean, if Bryan doesn't win this, you're right. What is it? Maybe like the long talked about match with Nigel McGuinness. Like he finally comes out of retirement. That's the only thing I could see for him, though. There's really nothing else appetizing for such a big show. He didn't work Wembley last year, so you would think he would want to be in a big match. So I'm leaning towards Bryan, but it really is a toss up. I know Andrew mentioned earlier in the chat, Jarrett, screwing over Hangman. Does that mean Jarrett and Hangman is the match for All In?
I mean,
it doesn't seem that spicy to me, but
no, it definitely does not. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you got to think there's a reason why they made Jarrett the special enforcer. I mean, obviously he's got the Owen connection. I get that. But it's just like, to me, it's like an escape hatch where you're like, he's there to like facilitate some kind of finish that, protects one of the two guys. And that's okay. You got some big business on hand with both of them. And so I'm not going to lose sleep over that. The thing that Andrew says here, Hangman Swerve at Wembley, like, I think Swerve and Danielson is the smarter choice for Wembley, just because it's like, we've seen, it's not that it's bad that we've seen Hangman and Swerve, but we've seen it at the highest level. We've seen it at the absolute highest level. They've done death matches and in-ring stuff, and like, I mean, where do they go? Like, what do they do for this big, showdown match at Wembley Stadium that is fresh? And I just feel like, there's no way to really like expect them to top what they've done already. So it's like, all right, like, is it worth like trying to, when you could just have, a really great match with Danielson and Swerve? And again, I say that because I speak so highly of the Swerve and Hangman run. It's just like, out of respect for that body of work, it's like, how can you expect them to top it?
Yeah. No, and Andrew saying in here in the chat, he was thinking actually that Jarrett would screw over Danielson. I mean, yeah, I could see that too. If that sets up Brian and Jarrett, though, also that's just not that appealing. I think
Yeah.
that for a show that's going to have so many people at it, that is one of their big chances now every year to appear to be this huge successful promotion to the general audience. They're not going to have as many people there as last year. Last I saw, they've sold like 40 some thousand tickets, so probably like 50,000, which is a huge crowd again.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for curiosity buys, I love Hangman, love Swerve. They're two of my favorites in the business right now. But the selling point of Bryan Danielson going for the world title one more time at Wembley Stadium is way more appealing to the general audience. It is one of those moments that will play across social media, which is what they need to help them pick up steam, to sell pay-per-views, to sell tickets. I mean, we're talking about an all-time legend here. And I mean, it's just one of those moments where you can see 5-10 years down the line, like that's the picture they show in the video package, Bryan Danielson at Wembley Stadium in the main event. I just feel like, kind of like you, they need to put him in a main event tier match on one of his last major shows of his full-time wrestling career. So if I was booking, I would go Bryan. Hangman Swerve is a match that they have in their back pocket that they can do anytime, and everybody that's a hardcore fan will be into it. They'll have an awesome match. The story is there. We've already seen, this is what Hangman's building his character off of, is the fans turning on him for such a heel in Swerve last year. And it almost feels too obvious that they would do that match. They can get to it in a couple of months. It doesn't have to be right now. It can be the slow burn and sell another pay-per-view on that match, but yeah, I would go with Bryan Danielson. Maybe I'm biased because he's one of my all-time favorites, but I want to see him in that position. And I just think from a business sense, it's the smarter play right now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, like, yeah, we're both fans of his, and lots of people are, but I think, you say for him to be in the main event for more than just that. Like that's the best thing for the company too at this moment. And so it's not just like we love Bryan Danielson thing. It's like you want to move some tickets, you want to move some pay-per-views, you want to create a little buzz, like Danielson chasing the world title. That's a really strong way to do that. So we'll see tomorrow on the show, guys. We'll look back. We'll take a look at what happened on Dynamite tonight, and review kind of these matches and where everything landed. So don't forget tomorrow, 11 Eastern, right here, if you want to do that. Let's pivot quickly to NXT from last night. We had Ethan Page in the middle of the ring cutting a promo about the Ego era and it being in full force. Pretty good promo there. What do you make of Ethan Page kind of like taking this step to NXT and being elevated like this after kind of wasting away? And I mean, he was in AEW, of course, and then he kind of was like a mid-card, low-card guy there. Couldn't even get on Ring of Honor when he was there for a long time. Like, I see some people out, some discord on like they totally like misused Ethan Page, and now NXT's using him right. And I guess you could have that opinion because he's NXT champion and he just, headlined a big pay-per-view. But I still think like the water level of Ethan Page is pretty similar to what it was in AEW. Like, I don't expect Ethan Page to like have this run as champion in NXT and then head to the main roster and start main eventing, opposite Roman Reigns. So yeah, he's in a little bit of a better spot. But when you look at the full context, like I still think Ethan Page is Ethan Page. Like, I'm sure I'm going to get beat up for this, but I just do.
Yeah, I think it's a false equivalence because NXT and AEW, yeah, you can talk about the ratings stuff and once in a while NXT doing better, they bring some big stars down there and everything. But at the same time, yesterday we had some chats talking about what about NXT, touring nationally outside of just the PLE shows. And if NXT toured their weekly show nationally, it would not do Dynamite numbers. It just wouldn't, like from a ticket sales perspective. If they were touring on their own, it is not at the level of AEW. It's just not. And so I think it's a false equivalence because you couldn't have Ethan Page be your world champion in AEW. Now in NXT, where it's clearly a developmental brand, he's a steady hand. He's a good worker. He's a good talker. I thought his talking segment last night was good. that's an ideal role for him, and he's trying to get over with the crowd and get a crack at the main roster eventually, which I think he should. I think he's a talented guy. I thought he was a little underutilized in AEW. I always thought it was kind of questionable that they put him with a mouthpiece when he's a guy who can talk.
Yeah, that was
that's one of his strengths.
yeah.
I don't think he was ever a guy to be world champion. People always talk about like, oh, this guy deserves to be world champion. No, not everyone does. You need those like upper mid card type people that are successful that can carry the second tier titles. He could have been like that TNT title, international champion style guy, continental. But not, he was never going to be a world champion there. And so I think it's a good role for him. There's a lot of discourse on like, oh, look at what WWE is doing with these guys that AEW lets go, and they're making them such a big deal. Really? Are they? I mean, is Ethan Page a bigger deal? I don't know. It's NXT. And you can look at a guy who was also on the show last night, like Brian Jr. or Lexis King, which is one of the most atrocious characters they've ever put together in that promotion. Sorry, not a fan. And he hasn't done anything better. I mean, that gimmick is dead, man. I mean, I'm not impressed with what they've done with him, and I wouldn't put that totally on WWE. I just think there's not a lot there for him right now. So yeah, there's a lot of discourse on it, but in the end, I think he's right where he belongs. I don't think that that's a negative on how AEW booked him. I think it's just apples and oranges, really. I'm not hearing you, Zach. I don't know if it's just me. Can you guys hear him in the chat? Oh, you're muted. I can see it. I think you're muted.
Hey, I'm back.
I was like checking my AirPods. I'm like, oh man, did I have another technical glitch like yesterday?
Hey, I'm here. I'm here, guys. I'm here, everybody. What I said was, I mean, it was like the most amazing thing that I said that you guys all missed. So I don't know if I should bother repeating it. No, I said last night there was a TNA, another TNA crossover. Joe Hendry on NXT. Man, are you in on the Joe Hendry thing? Like, I'm not sure that I fully get like all the kind of the hype on it, but
yeah,
he certainly gets a reaction. So maybe it's just not for me. But are you in on this thing?
Great chat there, the ghost
Great
of Macho
chat.
Man.
Great chat.
I'm kind of in. I mean, I know it does social media clicks and people find it funny and they all talk about it. So from that perspective, it's fine. I mean, if he's moderately entertaining when he gets on there.
All
you know,
right.
I don't know if he were to stay there, if he's a guy who can carry the brand or not. But you know, we'll see. I won't say I'm fully in, Zach, but I'm moderately entertained by it.
Okay. All right. You know, I think that's a good opinion. I was watching it going like, all right, like I get this kind of, but like not. I guess I look at it and I'm like, this gimmick has a ceiling on it for sure.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, is it going to be like a world champion type thing? I don't know, but not everything has to be in wrestling either. So it does crack me up though, and he's getting a good response. So, but I mean, the bigger story there is TNA and WWE still with a working relationship of some kind, clearly, and yeah, we'll see where that goes. But I mean, Hendry, you know, got a showcase yesterday on NXT television, which. I mean, boy, man, if you could rewind 4 years ago, you know, with Vince McMahon in charge, it's like there's not a chance that anything like that happens. It's not moving the needle for NXT per se, but I think it is just kind of a cool thing that they do, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to put this up again. Great message. Great message.
Our first show together, and that story is going to carry the show for eternity.
It is. It really is. Oh my God. David in the chat here talking about Tiffany Stratton. Not a fan of Tiffany Stratton. David, I'm not sure what made you send this message in, but
we haven't talked about her, but
yeah, we haven't talked about her. But I think she's a pretty strong talent for WWE. You know, I don't know that, you know, she'd be on the indies, you know, having like just these crazy burner like indie wrestling matches, or I don't even know how well she fits in AEW, you know, for that same reason. But her in a WWE environment, I mean, it's perfect for that. That's how I see it anyway.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of her social media behavior, but
Well, yes.
I think as a talent, she's right up WWE's alley. I think she's very good in the WWE environment. I agree with what you're saying about it. On the indies or something, it wouldn't be the same. But yeah, in that WWE produced environment, I think she's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, right. Like if they could like just carve a women's wrestler out of stone, like she'd be who they carve out. Like she's talented, she can talk, she's athletic. Like so, that's what they want, and I think she's going to get a big push because of it. All right, news and nuggets, and then we'll ride off into the sunset here. Chris Jericho commented on John Cena's retirement, and I bring it up because I'm going to read the quote, and then we can dissect for a bit. Jericho said to the McGuire on Wrestling podcast, he says, my career is already longer than John Cena's. No, I mean, it's great. John always had a great love for wrestling, and he's got a great connection with the fans. So I think it's a cool way to go about it. People know that this is it. And John's not the type of guy to say anything lightly. So I'm sure he's focused on this and working with the company to make sure it's right. I'm sure it's going to be a really great year and a half for Cena fans and for John Cena himself. So I think that sounded to me like a politically calculated Chris Jericho answer to that question. Seems pretty respectful of Cena, but also not rocking the boat at all with how he's talking about him or how he's talking about the company. Jericho's been a little unhinged with comments like that, or like, off the cuff stuff like that before. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was interesting to see him kind of like toe the line in terms of John Cena.
I'm shocked he didn't try to set up a match with them.
Yeah, right.
This is a guy who's always out for scooping other people's heat. I mean,
yep. Hi guys. Hi guys.
Yeah. Oh, that gimmick, by the way, is dead. God bless Big Bill, but that stuff needs to end. I'm sorry. I thought when he debuted it, I was down there in St. Louis at Dynasty. I was like, man, he's done it again. He's come up with a character that's going to work. And within like a couple of weeks, I'm like, it's on TV too much. Yeah.
Do you buy that? Like if someone were to say to you right now, like, hey, that's what you're supposed to feel. Like that's the idea. Like
I think it's go away. I think it's more go away heat. I think it's just like, get this off my TV. I don't even want to see him work. It's just, it's Jericho needs to just go on tour with this band and just get away from wrestling for like a year. Just freshen up. If he wants to continue working, he's been there, pretty much the whole time for the most part. And he was very critical in establishing their world title. There's no question about that. But like he could really, really benefit from some time off screen, I think.
No, for 100%. I mean, 100%. Like, I mean, when you just think about not just the length of time he's been, like his career has happened, but I mean, he's been like 5 years straight almost on AEW television. I mean, like without a break. I mean, even like the young guns of AEW, the Young Bucks have had a break. Omega's had a break. Swerve's had a break. Like all their top guys, Hangman, Moxley, have all had like time away from the company. And then there's Jericho, who just is there, like, beating drum every week. So yeah, I mean, he absolutely could benefit from that. Finn Balor announced yesterday, signed a 5-year contract extension with WWE. It's crazy to say, but like, obviously Balor has history in New Japan, and he's worked all over the world, but the longer he's with WWE, like he's kind of a WWE guy now. Like he's kind of like fully pivoted to that. I feel like he kind of got the AJ Styles treatment of like, yeah, AJ's been everywhere, but he's kind of like a WWE, guy now. Were you surprised that he signed a contract there around like available to him?
No, not surprised. I figured he'd stick around. Just he does seem like a company guy who's very comfortable. He's making a big paycheck. He's comfortable working there. Yeah, I mean, he's got the connections with the people in AEW, certainly, and he with New Japan, like he talked about, and he did the Bullet Club thing and all of that. So it would have been fun to see him try it. but I never would have picked him leaving. I think it makes sense. I wasn't that shocked when I saw it.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I think he's in a, I mean, frankly, like, he's in a good spot. Like, he's not the main event guy. He's not the guy that you're strapping the company to his back and going. But I mean, when you look at Monday Night Raw on a weekly basis, like, he's in multiple segments. He's tag team champions. He's backstage vignettes. He's promos in the ring. Like, he's involved in a lot. And so, you put that with like a good paycheck. Like, I think it makes total sense for him to stay. Yeah. And last but not least here, WWE is going to bring NXT on the road again for No Mercy, PLE in early September 1st in Denver, Colorado. We talked about NXT yesterday going on the road more. I don't know, what did they hear us or something, Brian? I'm not sure, but like, the Heatwave pay-per-view was a good show. Some good matches on it. But man, like, I think you start diluting that NXT product the more you take it out and the more you try to treat it as its standalone thing. This will be 3 PLEs in 4 months for them. And that's a lot with kind of the roster that they have. So, I mean, can they pull it off? I mean, sure, they proved that they could, with Heatwave, but I still don't think it's a prudent use of kind of the audience's willing availability to consume wrestling. Like, this is just another show that you're going to try to ask people to watch, and I don't know if you get a huge return out of it. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I just think it's a little too much NXT for me.
Yeah, I would be more comfortable with them keeping it to the bigger PLEs where you have the big traveling crowd where attendance definitely is not going to be an issue. Money in the Bank, I mean, it's not traditionally, one of those big 4 pay-per-views, but it's such a legacy pay-per-view that I think that was fine. But you would like to see them keep it to like your WrestleMania, your Rumble, Survivor Series, SummerSlam weekends. Like, that makes sense because so many people travel in and they have huge crowds for those shows. No Mercy in Denver, that seems like a bit of a stretch. They'll probably do fine, but I'm not sure it's necessary. Like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Right. They'll probably do fine. It's just, why though? I guess, hey, they gotta please the Peacock overlords.
True.
And get them some content. Oh man. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who joined us live. We are live here every day, Monday through Friday, 11 Eastern, talking with you on the news of the day and the week in wrestling. Tomorrow, we will recap AEW and hit everything else that drops news-wise in the next 24 hours. So appreciate you being here. Thanks to Andrew and David and everybody else who joined us live in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you're heading over to onetruesport.com to check out our membership opportunities. 3 different tiers there that you can get to and get in the door with that are all at different price points. So I want to try to make it so everybody that wants to get in can get in. If you want to just catch our free stuff, subscribe right here on YouTube. That is where we drop all of our free content, our free interviews and other videos with a vast array of wrestling legends. So hit subscribe and hit like and turn on your notifications so that you know when we are live. You can check more of my long form work at Brass Ring Media. You can follow our YouTube channel. Just search Brass Ring Media YouTube. We've got live shows all week there, a little bit longer form, more, tailored to one current event topic in wrestling, but also a ton of other stuff on our Substack page as well. Brass Ring Media Substack. Those are our 2 free platforms. So I hope you check those out. Ryan, what's going on at Top Rope Nation?
Yeah, we will be live Thursday nights. We do Top Rope Nations, our flagship show, every Thursday night. You can find us on YouTube, wherever podcasts are found. We also have a Patreon where we do bonus shows. We do a show called Top Rope Nation Classics, where we go back in time and we review retro shows. We do like a 2 to 3 hour deep dive on everything happening in the business surrounding those shows. Got like over 150 bonus shows in the archives. So yeah, Top Rope Nation. The Patreon is great if you really want to support us, but otherwise, subscribe to the YouTube channel, totally free. wherever podcasts are found. We have a Facebook discussion group. If you search Top Rope Nation Pro Wrestling Discussion, got a few hundred people on there talking pro wrestling every day. Zach's in the group as well. A lot of fun. So you can find that for some daily discourse on pro wrestling. And yeah, looking forward to tomorrow's show. All the Dynamite fallout should be a good one here on One True Sport Daily.
It's going to be awesome. Guys, same time, same place tomorrow, 11 Eastern, right here at One True Sport. Thank you all. Talk to you later. Have a good day. See ya.
See you.